there are defining moments in falconry. One of the defining moments in falconry, just a couple off the top of my head, was seeing a prairie falcon hit a pigeon. Sounded like a baseball bat. It was awesome.
So awesome.
Seeing a Sharpie explode. I couldn't believe the falconer. It was Vince Pontello again.
Yep.
Lets a Sharpie's jesses go fast enough. This mourning dove rips out of a warehouse right in front of us. And, I mean, literally 6 or 8 feet in front of our faces, going right to left. And Vince lets go of the jesses, and that Sharpie blows up and catches that dove.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks again so much for joining us for another week of the Falconry Told Podcast. This is John Munnier, and this week offers a slightly different perspective on things yet again. I'm joined this week by Josh and Sara Hoos, which is one of Falconry's married couples, and it was cool sitting down with them and kind of talking about how falconry works with their relationship and some of the different birds that they've chosen because of that, and some of the different birds that they've flown throughout their falconry careers. And it was also cool, talking to Josh and Sara kind of on the side too about their horse training and seeing their stable and everything, and they're pretty well established in the horse community as trainers. So that was kind of cool getting to talk to them about as well. And it was nice meeting them for the first time. And Jared Smith joined me this episode also as a kind of guest co-host. Appreciate him kind of helping set this up and everything. So yeah, I mean, I think you guys will enjoy it. It is kind of a little different perspective on things for sure. So without wasting any more time here, let's get Josh and Sara Hoos on here. So appreciate it. Enjoy. 3, 2, 1. So I'm here with Josh and Sara Hoos, and Jared's the co-host for this,
guys. Jared
Smith. Anyway, how you guys doing? And so go ahead and just get started with kind of how you guys got into all this. And I guess Sarah's motioning towards the husband to start over here.
He talks a lot.
Yeah,
We're good, and we do talk a lot. So I hope Sara gets enough time to talk. But we've been doing well, just like everybody else. We're cooking in the heat. We're waiting for the season to start and the leaves to fall off, which seems to take about 5-6 months, and from now, and looking forward to another season. This will be our 8th.
Yeah.
Something like that. We stopped keeping track. Once we became generals and birds became available, we stopped keeping track. But our story is pretty fun as far as how we got into it. And Sara will adjust me at need throughout the podcast. She'll correct whatever I say that's wrong.
That's what she's supposed to do best in your life, right?
Somebody has to do that.
Adjust constantly and correct you like all the time. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Help constructive criticism. But the way I remember it is I had just gotten back from like 14 days of deer hunting in Kansas, and Sara was 8 months pregnant or 6 months pregnant, something like that.
I was really
and
pregnant,
she said,
whatever it is.
She said, look, I appreciate that you're a hunter, and I think that's really cool. She said, but by the amount of time alone that hunting takes, I want to know if you think there's something that we could explore that maybe we could do hunting-wise together.
Ah, okay.
She said, and bear in mind, I don't want to shoot Bambi.
I like eating Bambi. I just didn't want to.
And I don't want to go stand in the cold water.
Right.
So that precluded those two, duck hunting and deer hunting. And she said, but I was reading online about falconry. And I said, that's cool. I read My Side of the Mountain when I was a kid. And, I think during Boy Scouts and in school, we had raptor presentations a couple times.
Right.
And I said, that's good with me. And that was... Actually, that was right before we moved here onto this farm where there's like 600 acres. And I said, well, we might really be able to do this. And that was late winter, early spring. And by May, we had met our future sponsor. We moved here, met our future sponsor, and by June or July, had our muse built. And
Okay,
it was
so how long, well, real quick, how long had you guys been together at that point?
we'd been together about 2 years, less than a year
no,
married.
Here comes the first interjection.
You're rushing the timeline. So I did the falconry thing, I suggested that to you, and then we waited like a solid year and a half because Audrey was mobile when we started it.
Okay.
So I brought it up, and I thought it would be best if we waited. So Audrey wasn't like a small person, and then we started it. So she was probably 2. I think we waited like almost 2 years before we really jumped into it.
But it was once we started it, it was like
started
that fury of falconry, that rage of falconry. It was just like, it just hit us, and we went down and met
Brian Brown.
Brian Brown came up from West Tennessee, and we met our sponsor Don about an hour and a half away from here in Tullahoma, and that was the start of it. And it all happened like over the summer. We studied our butts off, and then went and did this, and then all of a sudden it was just like our lives. Like, and we trained horses. I think we had talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but we train horses for a living. And so despite all the warnings that we had about, falconry's a big deal, it consumes a lot of time, we're like, shoot, another animal. And we work our horses. Every horse gets worked 45 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times.
And you have how many horses now?
Currently,
too many.
Currently, we have 4. We're trying to get a 5th.
Yeah.
And it's just it. So we're very accustomed to animals with very intensive needs.
Well, and our horses aren't turned out. Well, when you guys saw in our barn, like they are kept up. I normally bring them in at 7 in the morning. They go out somewhere between like 5 and 9 o'clock in the evening. So like taking care of birds and. I mean, that's like nothing.
Yeah, right. The threshold for killing stuff was Sarah's big hang up. She was like, I don't know what. Yeah. She's like, she said, I'm not sure whether that's going to be doable for me. And I said, trust me, you spend all this time on this bird, and there's a squirrel there that you think might hurt it. I said, that thing's going down.
He's right. I had no problem.
And when push came to shove, Sarah was like, I don't mind stabbing this thing and then cutting it up with scissors. Sarah was like,
saving it for later for food for the bird.
Yeah.
Did the fact that it was something that naturally occurs every day in nature, did that help you kind of get over that too?
No. I didn't really think about it that way. I was like, I don't know if I can deal with dispatching the quarry, even though it's a natural thing, right? I didn't.
Well, some people don't have that in them. They've got that that just that ultra sensitive nature about them, and I kind of get that to a certain degree. Well, some people, it's not even so much a sensitive thing. It's just they just don't want to.
Okay, so I have this really weird tactile issue. I don't like the way that the fur feels around the rib cage. I don't like. I know this is so weird, but I don't like the way it feels, and so I thought that was going to be the issue. It wasn't really hurrying up to help it to end the life, but because my bird would have no problem just eating it.
So it's kind of like the reason why I hate snowballs and love Swiss cake rolls.
Yeah, exactly.
The coconut texture.
Yes.
It's not the taste. It's a consistency.
Yeah. I'm still very much that way with rabbits.
Yeah.
I hate having to stretch out the rabbit.
She still does that.
I just don't.
If Sarah's in a field and a rabbit goes down, she's either going to go liberate it or she's going to go stretch it really quick.
Right. Because I got you.
That's not okay with her.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of this. That's part of the whole thing with the sport too. Is you want to humanely,
absolutely,
as quickly and as humanely.
You don't want it to suffer needlessly.
No, and absolutely not.
As a hunter, I've always there's this perception of hunting, even deer hunting or whatever kind of hunting you're doing. I think it's part of this concept agrarian drift where people are getting farther away from the farm, and we're both farm kids, more or less. And to me, there's this image of deer hunter that just shoots it. Oh, there's a deer, I'm going to shoot it. And I think as hunters, we have this totally different, almost unrelatable perspective, because whether you're doing falconry or you're or you're deer hunting, or whatever kind of hunting you're doing, upland, whatever, you spend all this time with these animals, and you have all these interactions. And if you're an upland hunter, maybe you've seen a hawk come down and kill something. Maybe you're just a person who's seen something fly down from a power pole. But that flight is all you get to see.
Right.
But then as a hunter, you have this like reverence for what makes us live. You know, you've got this circle of life, and as a hunter, I think a lot of us, you know, we're talking for the hunting community, which is not something I try and do, but at least for me, the dispatching of the game or the shooting of a deer and the tracking it, that's all part of the cycle that you feel so connected to when you hunt. Falconry, even more so. It's this thing that's so strange when maybe the only exposure you've ever had is seeing a kestrel hovering in a field or a red tail going down in the median of an interstate. You have this constant interaction with this bird that's doing what it totally does naturally, and it just makes you feel like you plug straight in.
Right.
It's mainlining nature.
It's kind of like the primal aspect of it, and the one of those things that you just can't really explain. It's just, you know, it just helps you feel more interconnected to everything, and it helps you gain more of an appreciation. Like I would have never had the appreciation for rabbits, squirrels, and everything that I do now. It's kind of funny, and I'm sure you guys probably feel similar in that you don't gain as much respect for, you know, the prey. You know, I would have never, you know, after seeing the rabbit, like jump my bird and stuff, like you come to respect those prey items, you know, so much more. Yeah. And sometimes you're, as bad as it sounds, you know, I mean, it's not out of spite, but sometimes you root for the rabbit. You know, of course not when it's your bird that's up.
Exactly.
But, I mean, but it's more fun to watch a rabbit, you know, do a backflip over or front flip over someone else's bird than, you know.
Especially, when it's already juked the bird like 2 or 3 times, or it's made a couple of bailouts when you're squirrel hunting. You're like, oh man, this thing's a fighter. And you gain so much when you say you're a hunter or you're hunting. People have this, you know, click bang idea, and with hunting and that pursuit, you get this appreciation that's just, it's so much more fleshed out. You get this appreciation of the game, and with birds, you know, I mean, it's just the symphony that happens between animal, prey, and predator. It's never more evident than it is, because you look at them and you see what they do, and like your bunny jumping over your bird, it's like, this is not the first time this has happened. Right. They're both designed to do this. Right. And that hawk, that avian predator is perfectly made to do this, and there's a razor's edge between them. Right. Any fallacy in that game species is going to be weeded out by these birds of prey. Well, it's like the saying, you know, it's like by February there's no such thing left as a dumb rabbit or a dumb squirrel.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like all the dumb ones, well, they don't live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So only the strong survive.
And that same thing happens like as a duck hunter out in Arkansas. You know, a lot of guys are going to Max Prairie Wings and buying, you know, calls that broadcast 3/4 of a mile, and you know, in the last quarter of the season down in Arkansas, I'm not blowing a call. You know, because those ducks have been shot at. They know and they see, and that prey species adapt and survive, and to be a part of that, to see that and feel it's a cool thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the same way with I remember the first time we went hunting. I went hunting jackrabbits with all of me and Jared's mutual hunting buddies and stuff. And I remember the first time I saw a jackrabbit do that whole deal where they slow down and they wait for the bird to catch up, and right before you know, you think your bird's gonna get it, and that rabbit just takes off again, and like, you know, from 0 to 60 in like 2 nanoseconds flat, you know, and you're just like, oh, it almost had it, and they're just like, no, it didn't. They're like, no, dude, you don't get it. Like, that jackrabbit planned that, and I was just like, oh.
That's on my bucket list. I want to go hunt jack so bad.
I've never seen it either, but the first exposure I had to that was a video that Tony Serfadini did. his teaser trailer for Whack It and Stack It. And you've got these eagles that he's flying who are just as well adapted, because you see this eagle come over and do this wicked wing over, and then it actually like wing fakes this jackrabbit, and the jackrabbit makes his move, and that eagle just flips right over, does a complete barrel roll, and tags that jackrabbit. And I was just like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, the cool thing is you know, we've seen pretty much, gosh, I mean, I should say I've seen red tails, Harrises, Goshawks, you know, most of your normal standard, you know, Harris hawks, you know, I've seen more of the normal standard birds, you know, hunting jackrabbits. And one of the cool things I will tell you guys is you guys are going to be really adequately equipped, you know, for the first time you get to go and do it, because you guys hunt Harrises in a cast, correct? So that's one of the cooler ways off a T-perch, especially. Our buddy Greg Inman was doing that when we were in Kansas this past season and everything. And, you know, watching two Harrises, especially in a cast together off a T-perch, pursue a jackrabbit and watching them work together in that whole situation, you'll love it the first time you get to do it. And it's so much better. You'll bag probably more jacks definitely that way with the cast, because I mean they work so well together.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
I'm excited.
And I'm also really curious, because something that you don't see as much, and there are people out there I'm sure that have done it, and it's my lack of exposure that says it, but like we hunt on this big farm right here, and it's all hills and 100-foot hardwoods, and so I'm looking forward to seeing our squirrel fit Harris hawks going out there and doing that. And it's totally different, and seeing if we can get them entered and going in that direction, and just seeing how that goes. Because these birds, I mean, Sara and I get fitter, and the birds get fitter, you know, throughout the season.
So you guys will definitely want to get your cardio in before, because literally, I mean, you won't have to worry about it near as much with two Harrises, because when one barrels into it, so the thing with Harrises that most people notice is there's always the one that kind of wants to wait for the other to make the first move. And I'm sure you guys have saw that.
You see that
all the time with squirrel hunting and everything too, I bet. Well, it's no different with the jacks, man. There's going to be one that's ultimately braver, and the other one that's going to trail back just a smidge and wait for that first initial tag, and then the second one will plow in right afterwards, and then they'll both together they can handle a jack. So you guys might be able to get away with a light jog. Yeah. But I mean, you know, for guys that do it with the, you know, you've seen Jared.
I'm gonna be running real
hard. Jared,
I'm puffing. It's gonna be rough.
Jared's gonna have to get, you know, his trim fit, you know, beach body going.
Say his summer body.
Well, and I don't want to get into too controversial a topic. Well, I do, because I'm bringing it up. But you know, we started out with red tails, and the reason we made the transition, the reason we're squirrel hawking Harrises, is because when we get off of work or when we get the chance to hunt, we have the option of, if we gave both of our red tails an hour, you know, that's saying we have 2 hours to hunt.
Right.
Which we don't.
For a majority of the season.
You're hunting both birds at the same time and saving time.
So that's where that's why we're
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That's why we're squirrel hunting with a cast of Harrises. And for us, it works really well.
Sure.
We're hunting these Harris hawks. And Sara actually mentioned that when we first started. She was like, they've got these parabuetos. and
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
They hunt together like in a pack, like wolves. And she's like, you can hunt more than one of them. You can hunt more than two of them. And it'd be really cool if we could do that. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm going to have my peregrine, and I'm going to be doing cool things.
Your golden eagle.
And Sara educated me again, because eventually that's where we ended up. And it really works well for us. Because, you know, the Harris hawks, you know, love them, hate them, whatever. We have a lot of fun on days we don't kill. I think I have more fun, and I love a good red tail. I hunt with Jeff Fincher, all the time. And watching his birds hunt is always a pleasure, because you don't know whether him or the bird wants it more, and it's just a lot of fun, you know, and his birds are always spot on. But our Harrises go out into the woods, and they hunt from their mews predominantly here on our property. We open the doors and we go hunt. And in that, we see more game moved with a cast of Harris Hawks. With the two birds going, you can go out with a red tail. I have friends come in, Nick Yashko comes in, Jared comes in, and you can see these birds fly out there, and a red tail zeroes on a squirrel, and it's this dance, and it's great. Mm-hmm. But when we're moving squirrels with our Harrises, I mean, it's one after the other after the other. I mean, just, and you've got one squirrel that you're trying to work, and then the stupid Harris goes after another squirrel in a tree over there because they see so much. But they, and Harrises also have a tendency to try and push them to the ground, which is where the male pushes them towards the top of the tree, the female sitting at the top of the tree waiting. Ideally. And then she takes her hit, and if they're flying a touch heavy, they'll almost always try and push that squirrel out of the tree. Mm-hmm. And then if they're spot on, that thing's coming off the tree. I mean, it's getting ripped off of the tree. She rips it off the tree probably 60% of the time. But if you see 3 chases in a row that she doesn't if she is not pulling fur before that thing leaves the tree, we'll get it done, but it's not going to be a 2 or 3 head of game day. Right. So, but it's interesting to see that, and it is fun to watch those Harrises you just see squirrels just rolling ahead of you, in front of you, because the Harrises move so many.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it only makes sense, and it's only natural that would, because obviously if it's just one bird, the squirrels know that
they're moving to the other side of the trees.
Know. But if there's 2 or even 3 or 4, depending on if someone wants to be real brave and having,
we've done it.
Yeah, I was going to say not that it never happens, and not that plenty of people have done it, because obviously they have. But I know it's not really in me to want to manage 3 or 4 birds at one time.
It gets a little much even with 2. Yeah. Ideally, the way we set them up, Sara flies the male a little heavier, and I fly my female, at a general range. And that's what we try to do, but it doesn't always work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes her male, sometimes there's a miscalculation, or sometimes there's a change in the weather, or sometimes we bring them in most of the time. I say 28, 27, we'll bring them inside every time. But Sarah's 34, I'm bringing him in. So she brings her male in, and maybe he's a little too heavy, or maybe she's a little too light, because there's a difference in the weather. Right. And it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and then you've got 2 squirrels down at 2 different ends of the wood. Yeah, and you're flying around. I bet. So when you've got 4, and we've done it with other people. We fly with Vince Pontello. We've flown with him and his male, and different birds that he's had. And then we've flown in Alabama with friends of ours. And our birds have entered, I think, at least 2 different... We've used them for make birds for at least 2 or 3 different people to enter them in on squirrels. And it's a lot of fun. But if you don't have a big party of people, for 2 people, I think you need to have at least as many... people out there as you do Harris Hawks for squirrels. Yeah. Because you don't want them to spend any time on the ground wondering whether or not they're in a good position.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that with squirrels. I mean, cottontails, who cares? Whatever. It's but yeah. So out of curiosity, I mean, he's told me a lot about you, but Jared, I mean, how did you hook up with these guys originally?
It was at Jeff's Tennessee meet. I came down for the squirrel meet. It was my first big meet, and they were real nice, and alcohol was flowing, and we know each other pretty well. Picked Sarah's brain on kestrels because I was wanting to try one, and we've been friends ever since. Went out hunting with them, I think, for the rest of the meet. Yeah,
cool. It's funny how that works. The best friends that I've ever had, it was literally like a first day of school thing. Like, hi, my name's Josh. Hi, my name's Jared. And then all of a sudden, well, we've been best friends forever, right? And that's just the way it worked with Jared and Nick Yashko. Yeah. It's just like our little falconry group is now a big falconry group of some really good friends. Yeah. But it's funny how that works. It's just like sometimes you meet somebody, it's just
clicks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I feel you. No, it's I don't know if it was like that with us, Jared, but we
got along pretty well at the beginning.
We did, but
we met at my first meet. So most of my falconry at that point have been by myself. So I'm meeting all these other people, and I don't know what their experience level is, and I'm really nervous I'm going to say something stupid.
Yeah.
So I mostly just kept to myself, kept my mouth shut. And I've gotten over that.
Right.
But yeah, it was more. I was just intimidated by everybody because I felt like I'm the new guy, and as far as I know, everybody here's been doing it for 30 years, and I've got a year and a half, and find out most of us are general level, and there's it's kind of been a new wave of falconers this last maybe decade or so that have gotten into it. So it's not so intimidating, and everyone's real friendly. And
Sara and I are a great team because she's always nervous for what I'm gonna say.
Yes.
Sara's always nervous because I don't, Sara's like, you shouldn't say that, and I was like, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's there are those I think that you and I would Jared, we get along pretty well then because we all have a tendency to have that talent of you just never know how you're gonna.
Oh yeah. No, you never know what's gonna happen.
I feel you.
We're two of the younger guys in our group, so we like to throw out the pop culture references and make everyone else feel really old. It's a lot of fun, especially the Star Wars ones and all that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've told this story a couple times, but not necessarily on here, but maybe on, I can't remember, in one of the previous episodes. But anyway, one of the first times I ever got out in the field, it was with Mark and it was Keith Bennett at the time and stuff, and Joe, and we were walking around, and I was talking about how I love going to comic conventions and everything, and love Ghostbusters and stuff like that. And I showed up with like it was just like jeans, and I had I had just gotten the first one of the newer Ninja Turtles movie for my kid. Yeah. And those came with like those beanies of like the different characters and stuff. So I was wearing like a Donatello like beanie and stuff in the field. And I just wanted part of the reason I did is I wanted to see how those dudes would react to me, and to see exactly how harsh they would be, to see if we could see how they would react, if I could tolerate them feeling. They gave me a good amount of crap for it, but I could tell it was good natured and everything. So that's when I knew that's when I knew that it'd be all right.
It's a solid litmus test.
Yeah, very much a litmus test for sure.
And I'll tell you on that measure, if you are not gonna be, if there's somebody who's not comfortable with a Donatello hat, don't bother coming to the Tennessee meet, because that place, the paraphernalia that makes it into the field at the Tennessee meets is, I mean, the whole Tennessee meet is just it's a riot of falconry and just debauchery.
You've got to go this year.
Well, I'm going to try my best, as long as I don't have any scheduling conflicts. I told Jeff I wanted to try and make it down this year for sure. But
it's crazy.
I'll quit my job if that's what it takes to go to this meet. I'll just live with them.
I feel bad because it's like
for his room.
It's like that movie that you've heard is so good, and then you get there and it's a letdown. Well, I keep feeling like maybe I'm going to play the Tennessee meet up too much like that, and somebody's going to feel like that. But it's not. Like, whether you're in the field, and this season was actually, this Tennessee meet was probably our worst. Sara and I were not ready. My parents had been in Florida for 4 months.
Lord, and
we were not ready for the meet. But it didn't matter. Our birds flew like crap this year, and it didn't matter because I can't tell the stories here, but
I was gonna say
I wouldn't.
Gotta keep it PG,
but I had just as much fun at that meet, and I've heard that about NAFA too. That the first time you go, you don't have to bring a bird because it's such an experience to see all that stuff that comes in. And falconry is not, I mean, the Tennessee meet is not that diverse as far as the game and the species of birds, but it is that diverse as far as people. And we just have a great time, and we get these cabins, and there's a core group, and you never know who's going to show up. The eagle falconeress herself, shows up down there sometimes. And then she's just accosted by little fanboys like me who are like, "Can I hold your eagle?" Honestly, like straight up, I'm unabashed in my admiration for her and what she does.
She's one of the nicest people out there.
Oh,
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I've talked to Lauren, semi-frequently too. So it's it really is cool how you can have such a diverse amount of people, and even though you may not always agree in even your falconry practices and stuff, for the most part, is divided as it can seem at times, and people, you know, is not so nice as sometimes people can be. For the most part, I feel like our community is pretty good about, you know, overall just accepting and just, if not accepting, then tolerating like the differences and just personalities, for sure.
All that Facebook stuff goes away when you get to that meet and everyone's got a beer in their hand and it's just having a good time.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Hope you've been enjoying listening to Josh and Sara so far. Just wanted to pop in here real quick and give you an update on how things are going with uploading to Libsyn and getting the podcast to other platforms for you all. Still in the middle of plugging away at that. It's just taking a lot of time since we have a lot of episodes to backload and everything. But everything's still going well. Hopefully we'll have everything live for you within the next month or so. But we appreciate your patience, and hopefully we'll have that live for you here real soon, so you can start getting the podcasts from other platforms and basically tuning in with us on whatever medium you choose here shortly. So appreciate your patience with that, and we will keep you updated. All right, well, now that announcement is out of the way, we will get right on back to Josh and Sara Hoos. Here we go.
That's a really cool thing about falconry too. There's a few places like that, I think, in the world, but I think different sports kind of gravitate certain types of people. And one of the cool things about falconry is it is the base of people who participate in it is so eclectic. From like, you've got musicians and that brings up another. It always astounds me how many falconers are either musicians or artists. Yeah, like, isn't that very crazy? Much. Like, you know, you never find out until occasionally you'll see like, oh man, that's a really awesome drawing. It's like, yeah, so and so did that. And you're like, I had no idea. I had no idea. You know, and you know, it's always cool whenever you discover stuff like that, because you would never, like, just meeting and casually talking to some of these people, you would never know. Yeah. Yeah, well, and again, somebody like Jeff Fincher, when you meet him, he's a skydiving instructor and he does all this crazy stuff, and he's an international photographer. And he looks at you and you meet. I'll introduce him to somebody or one of my friends. He'll be like, "Yeah, I work at an airport." Right. You know, because that doesn't bother. You know, that's not who he is. Who he is to people is he's a hunter and he's all these things. But you know, and that's, you hit the nail on the head. It's not just artists. You don't have to be that. You can be in a, you know, we've got a lawyer in town who does it. Yeah. We've got a guy who worked on an Air Force base. But you have this, it's kind of like horses in that all these people are full of this passion. Or they're in the process of being disillusioned from their
everyday job?
The people who come in and they're here for 2 years and then they leave. The novelty of it wears off. You know, everybody thinks it's cool. When we're doing abatement work in downtown Nashville, everybody wants to learn how to do falconry. Right. Not necessarily. They want to hold a bird. Exactly. They want to be exposed to a raptor. Yeah. I don't blame them for it. It's awesome. Yeah. But you meet that, and that's where you get your friends from. You get your friends from the people who, most of the time, the people who that click happens with are people who have this, you know, they've gone through the, they're the people who are sitting there in the summer going, oh, we're going to go feed this stupid bird. You know, and we're being able to relate to you know, having a mutual interest you can relate to, and knowing what you, well, sometimes suffer through. Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, the same people who are like, if I have to clean one more water bowl or scrape that muse out one more time, but they're the same people who call you on the phone, or they'll send you a text and they'll be like, dude, a legit fall leaf, not like a dried out leaf, like a legit fall leaf just hit me in the face. It's about go time. You know, these leaves are going to be off these trees. Let's do this. You know, and those people are going to be your friends. Like, you know, it doesn't matter how disenfranchised you become with some of the drudging. It's like, well, if you don't like it, why are you drudging? Because it's falconry. I'm not going to stop. Right. You know, and those people you're going to, you know. Well, and you just have to, sometimes you have to push through the
the bad stuff and hope that there's that good stuff still that's waiting on the other side. And we all have discussed many times the bad things, the tragedy aspect of it all, and everybody loses birds and goes through and all that, but
nothing worth doing is free.
Well, no, and and most of the time anything that's worth doing is going to make you endure a whole lot of crap and pain and suffering, going through the process too. But so I mean, that being we just kind of were talking before we started recording too about kestrels and everything else and stuff. Like, out of curiosity, how long, Sarah, did you say you were messing with kestrels? And how many have you had? And I
think I've had 4 and 3, and I had a on my first year.
She's fostered a lot of kestrels.
Yeah, I've taken a lot to our rehab that we have in Jolton. But yeah, I started off originally with a red tail, and I trained her way too much, like a typical apprentice. I had no idea what I was doing.
First bird.
Oh right. Yeah, I mean, I was lost as an Easter egg, and I got her really footy, and she was just overtrained. I think I trained. I mean, some people might disagree with this, but I mean, I was putting her in the creance for like a month, and flying her out in the field, like flying her like out in our horse fields right here. And she was like, "Okay, I've got this," and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, "Yeah, she's flying." But then when I took her out to go hunt, she wasn't hunting, right? She was just like following me because I had her too low. And so I just got a bit lost and a bit confused. And I talked to my sponsor, and he was like, well, let's transfer her to another falconer that lives by you, and maybe that'll reset her. And so I transferred her to another falconer, and I trapped a kestrel the next time. Mm-hmm. Loved it. Yeah. I loved the control part about it because I'm already kind of controlling. So, sorry, Josh. but I loved having to literally micromanage the weight and what each, everything I fed her and how that handled it and what weight it would put on or take off. I mean, I was so over controlling that I was gutting mice to make her weight work, which you don't need to do that. There's no need to do that. Right. But that's where I was, because I was learning and I wanted to make sure I did it right. Sure. And so I got her, and then a really good friend of ours, Vince Ponatello, I was like, Vince, I have this kestrel. My sponsor said it was great. And so Vince came up, and he was flying a kestrel at the time called Teacup. And it was really cute, this little kestrel. She was tiny. I think she hunted at 85 grams. She's a little female. Both of the females that I've had have hunted in the mid 80s. So the female, my main female that I had was Lisbeth. She was actually my second or third kestrel, but she hunted at I think it was 106. Okay. And I got it up to where I think I could take her out to 110. But I had very limited slips at that point. But I was just curious. But so we actually, I hunted her with Teacup. And we tried to do it in a cast. It didn't. I mean, it was kind of silly. It didn't, they were fine, but one went one way, the other went the other way, and we're like, well, this is dumb. It was just basically hunting two individuals at the same time. I mean, it wasn't no partnership aspect of it. It was this is great. Not really. So, and so he helped me get started, and
he walked us through, and that's been the cool part too.
Oh yeah.
When she was doing the kestrel, our first year when she did the red tail, I picked her bird up, so I was flying both of our red tails there for a little bit. Yep. And then when she got a kestrel in the spring, it was we never stopped. Mm-hmm. She transferred her bird, and I flew I intermewed my red tail, and then she picked up a kestrel in the springtime, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So she's doing the kestrel, and I was like, why are you gonna do this, bird? This is not gonna be fun. And I was totally wrong. The kestrel just, the first, they look like a little stuffed animal.
They're not.
A claw machine. And then all of a sudden, you see it attacking the neck of a screaming starling, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of bird. Yeah. They're tiny awesome little terrors. But that's a huge advantage that we've had is every year we've been doing falconry, it hasn't been one bird in the house, it's been 2. Right. Or 3. I flew a red tail and a Cooper's hawk at the same time at one time, and we both get to learn a lot.
Well, you had a female coop, and then I had a male coop.
Sarah's kestrel knowledge, Sarah's weight management. I'm kind of a throw the food
kills
and
me.
see what happens.
It kills me.
And I'm like, well,
me.
I'll weigh her at lunch. I'm not going to run out of calories.
It's like, oh my gosh.
And Sara kills it, but she actually helped me a lot with my coops, and we were figuring out. You go to these levels of metabolism. It's not about grams go in and grams go out. It's about how much are they burning and how.
What are you feeding them?
How is their hydration and all this idiosyncrasies that has just helped us gain a lot of experience really fast.
No, plus, if you guys, obviously you have so much going on with all your horses and the birds that you do have and everything. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do this, but if you guys wanted to, being as you're both licensed and everything, you could have double the amount of birds and stuff too.
We do.
And that's another cool aspect too. Is if you guys wanted to try, a variety of birds and stuff in one season or whatever, you legally technically could do that.
We definitely, it's definitely an advantage that we've had, because what happens is you get a red tail, it doesn't work out, and then you get another red tail and something happens, and a lot of people are out.
You have 4 tags instead of 2, essentially, as a family. So
and
that's cool.
And as generals, or as masters eventually, which, pursuing that, maybe not. Well, we're both happy generals.
You pursue it kind of by default anyway. It's basically just having a bird for X amount of time for X amount of years.
Yeah.
It should be. Here in Tennessee, the regulations have gotten a little random.
How so?
They actually have required us. They required things from people at the point where they were filing for their
master. For
their masters. Like, well, where's your journal? What journal?
Wait a second. I have heard this.
Yeah,
I have heard. Okay. I've heard it from a couple other people.
And
too.
It's not just that.
We had to have one for our general. We had to have
there was no stipulation
but there's nothing in the regs, right?
And then all of a sudden it pops up, and like I said, being a master, the difference between a master and a general, it's all relative to us.
Well, number of takes, but the type of birds you can get also, which really is stuff that you necessarily wouldn't want to fly around here anyway.
No, there's nothing.
That's not true. I'd like it on the record that I want to fly a golden eagle on a turkey one day. And if Lauren is listening to this, I'm gonna petition you one more time to we can get these laws passed and we can do it.
Well, theoretically, you can catch the Harrises that you have, you can catch a nice wide variety of games theoretically. Game items, I should say, theoretically. It may not always be the best tool for the job, but the two birds at the same time thing is always an advantage that you're going to be able to have hunting in a cast versus
And during the time, I think we've had these 2 birds for 4 or 5 years, 4 years,
maybe 4. I can't remember. We got pellet first from Vince Ponatella, who helped me. He had 2 males, and he was hunting the 2 males.
Jared's known us for 3 years, and we've had them the whole time.
Okay, so 4 years?
During the time that we've had these, I've had, right before we got them, I had a goshawk. We've had Cooper's hawk. Sara had a prairie falcon. So, we've had these, during this time, like you said, we have this husband-wife thing where we're able to do it. And I'll tell you what, I feel sorry for the people, for everybody else, because when we're raising an imprint, whether it's prairie or a coop or a goshawk, when you've got an imprint at home, and I work from the farm here, Sara works up the road at my dad's training horses over there, but having somebody else to come in and pitch hit for you makes it kind of cheating.
Well, and I can definitely see where they'd be an automatic peace of mind too. Because say if I left an imprint goshawk with my wife, the odds of me being divorced within about 24 to 48 hours afterwards, once it started getting bigger, would be higher than a normal daily basis. Which I, love you, honey. That's not always saying a whole lot.
Keep on digging.
Well, she knows me well enough by now to know after 13 years, that's it's how it goes. But anyway, I mean, just having the peace of mind to be able to do what you need to do every day, and knowing that you're going to come home to a likely not dead bird because your significant other knows what they're doing while taking care of it, and you don't really have to go through the step by step. Okay, honey, what I'd like you to do is you see this chick head, just the head, not the rest of the body, but
I've got these separate baggies.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the baggie labeled Monday, and this is the baggie labeled Monday afternoon, morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever. It just not having to sit there and outline just bullet point by bullet point what you want somebody to do, I can see would be a huge load off your.
There are defining moments in life, and there are defining moments in falconry. One of the defining moments in falconry, just a couple off the top of my head, was seeing a prairie falcon hit a pigeon. Sounded like a baseball bat. It was awesome.
So awesome.
Seeing a Sharpie explode. I couldn't believe the falconer. It was Vince Pontello again.
Yep.
Lets a Sharpie's jesses go fast enough. This mourning dove rips out of a warehouse right in front of us. And, I mean, literally 6 or 8 feet in front of our faces, going right to left, and Vince lets go of the jesses, and that Sharpie blows up and catches that dove. And then for my final current illustration on this train of thought, watching your imprint goshawk follow your wife back to the bedroom and jump on the bed. And Sara looks at me and goes, "You're not sleeping with that thing in here." And I was like, "Yes, I am." I was like, "Look how cute she is." And I took a picture. I posted it. I was like...
she loved to lay at the feet of our bed.
I was like, one of my best friends when Sara and I got married looked at me and said the same thing he said to the best friend when he got married, which was, "Son, you've outkicked your punt coverage."
Yeah.
And when the imprint gosh jumps up in bed and just, how they lay down all the time, and just nestles right in and fluffs right next to your wife, you're like, that's a keeper.
Yeah.
I think I've done well.
Yeah.
I think I've done well.
It probably wasn't hard pinned yet, was it?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No, but she was a good bird. Like, I had a Finnish North American from Aaron Jones in California, and all the things that bird. Sara is very bold in certain ways, and then in other ways she's like, "Josh, you're gonna have to handle this." And
what I call man job. That's a man job.
Yeah, she called me. Sarah's single-handedly fighting the feminist movement. But that's a man job.
That's a man job.
She's like, "I can do everything you can do and better, but that trash is a man job."
At least right now it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So go do it.
Exactly.
This is another one of my delegating assignments for you at this moment.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I can remember, and this is why another reason we get along so well. I don't remember, was she on my head or your head? I tame hacked the goshawk right out the door. Mm-hmm. And she was standing on my head or her head, and she's like, "Josh, I don't like this." And I was like, "It's fine. Look, it's fine." And she was like, "No, I don't like it. She flies down every time you come home from work, and if I'm not getting out of the car until you get home." But once you got her inside, she was fine, and that she pinned when she was out, or. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If she wasn't pinned, she was daggone close to it. Well, she would
chase me, and not really chase me, but she would, chase me into the house.
She called me, and she said... I was
like, "Oh my gosh,
She said, Josh, she can't be confusing me for you, but she's following me around in the yard." And I said, "Just let her in. Like one of the dogs.
She just
let her
in."
Yeah. I said, "Just let her in."
So she'd walk in like a puppy.
And she's walking, just velociraptor walking around.
Yeah, she's like 2 days from being done with tame hacking. And she's like hanging out in our big hackberry tree where I park my car. She's like, I try to get out with our, at the time, 6-year-old child. And there's this giant goshawk trying to come at me. And I was like, "Josh, you have to get this bird. I can't. This is too much."
She was raised. I mean, she was completely raised inside, and I mean, she was completely cool with everything, and did some wacky stuff. And
she would play with socks.
The accipiters are awesome, and point of order, I think that the goshawks are absolutely the coolest.
I agree.
Sharpies and coops are really cool.
You'll speak when spoken to.
Sharpies and coops are really cool. They are, and all accipiters are like just the neatest birds.
See, I probably have more in common with her on this topic. We were talking about this actually, Jared, on the way down. Not a big accipiter fan. I mean, I'm just not, and it's not that I don't like them. I mean, I do. I respect them. I mean, the first rabbit I technically ever caught was one of the first handful of times that I went out hunting as an observer. Because in my opinion, everybody needs to spend one season observing and going out. You know what I mean, and really getting a lot of exposure with it, so they can really appreciate what all goes into it. So my first observing season, Mark, I think one of the first handful of times that we were out, let me fly Dixie, his goshawk that everybody knows about and gives him a huge ego over and everything else. Yeah, that's right, Mark. Yeah. But anyway, let me fly her, and the first rabbit I technically ever caught was with her, a female goshawk, and it was cool. I remember barely seeing it happen because it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And so I understand that that's what makes people love goshawks, is the fact that they're so fast off the glove, this, that, and the other, whatever. But then I remember another hunt or two later, whenever he was spending close to an hour trying to get her out of a tree or off a building or whatever the case was, I instantly thought,
maybe it's not as cool. Maybe it's not as cool.
It's got its challenges.
So everybody always has those moments where they think they have their mind made up early on what they think that they're going to like, and then it's funny to watch that change over a season or two of them actually flying a bird.
Oh yeah.
Because Jared was telling me that Sarah, you're not a huge accipiter fan for the most part.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
there's a video out there.
The Cooper sock one.
Sarah's video is pretty good.
Yeah.
I love that video.
I hate this.
And she's
bird.
such a good sport about it because she doesn't mind when I'm showing people. I'm like, look at this. And she's like, yep, it's true. She's like, Cooper sock, staring me in the face, fanning out its wings and puffing up.
It was trying to attack me.
I've never seen someone look so uncomfortable in my
life.
life.
Yeah, it was. And she was like...
It's like Aubrey Plaza, but with holding a Cooper's hawk.
Nice.
It's a little male.
I'm still not
even
convinced.
Big.
I still think that Sarah's favorite attributes of falconry, Sarah likes she likes hunting little birds, and
I love the micros.
Well, I mean, not little birds,
that's
but
me.
starlings.
But I love
me too.
Hunting.
And I think that Sarah, I think one day Sarah's going to do an imprint male coop, and she's going to be in heaven. I think one day it's going to happen.
He wishes this. It's not going to happen. Never.
It's all right. Mark my word. Now mark me.
No.
Now we're on.
It's on record now.
Yeah, it's on record.
This is going to be for the whole world.
This is
to listen to.
I'll just keep looking at that video of me.
Sarah makes sure I don't get into too much trouble, and I make sure that her boundaries are expanded.
I think my next bird will probably be like a male peregrine. That's probably what I'll shoot for next.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping to. I've spent the last couple of seasons doing as much homework on Merlins as I can, and that's going to be the next bird. I'm training a male prairie falcon right now myself, and I can honestly say that, this is another thing that Jared and I have talked about a lot too. My personality fits falcons more. It just does.
They're neat birds.
They're awesome.
My personality meshes a lot more with the Falcons' personality, and I like Harris's. They've given me a lot of very fond memories, and a few not so fond memories. But if it wasn't for certain aspects, I would probably always have a Harris,
I love the
for sure.
Harrises. But
they've given me enough excitement in my life, good and bad, up until this point, for me to give them a good break for a while. All that being said, too, my first red tail was a really awesome, male red tail, and he caught, I think it was 34 cottontails, first season and everything. So he kind of spoiled me a little bit on red tails, but at the same time, I knew right off the bat that there was a lot of different things that I would like more than hunting with red tails. That being said, we were talking about this on the way down here too. So I really do want to try the squirrel deal with a red tail and stuff. And we don't hunt a lot of squirrels in our group, So it would be cool to have that little bit of diversity and stuff. And I've some guys like Mark, they know they love Goshawks and accipiters, and that's all they want to fly, and they have a stay in your lane. And he, per himself, is like, it's not accipiter. Some people just gotta know when to stay in their lane, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not really me. Like I want to try all the different species because I feel like I'm still early enough in this myself that if I don't try all these different species and stuff that I'm not truly gonna have an appreciation for what I like and also don't like.
Absolutely.
But that's why, I mean, especially micro falcons, absolutely love them. And I'm hoping to get a Merlin this fall. I'm sure it'll happen one way or the other. I swore up and down that this year was going to be the year I was going to make it happen. But I mean, I've flown 2 Kestrels now and loved both of them. And this was my first big hurrah with a bigger long wing, and so far I'm really enjoying it also. But it's always funny that's always the other dynamic of learning, and the more you get to know people, like, so if you got to know Mark pretty well, you would understand within about the first 10 minutes of meeting him why he's an accipiter guy. And it's always funny whenever you see these people's personalities and everything, and the more you get to know them, the more you understand why they like flying certain birds more than others.
And that
totally correlates.
And I think that analogy fits me. Like, the bird fits the person. Is like, I am just crazy in a lot of ways. I like to just jump into stuff. And I did that classic thing.
I love the
Sarah's like, I can confirm.
We're gonna have to start doing these with some video. Because seeing some people, seeing the facial expressions is hilarious.
She's like, sometimes it might benefit you before you look off the cliff. Just check out the bottom of the cliff before you jump.
Well, it's the same thing with you, like, weighing your birds. You're just like, whatever, it'll be fine. And I'm over here like, it's not. But it always is. But that's because I'm there like, are you sure that's going to work?
She will. She'll go out. Sarah's like, I'm bringing my bird in. It's 34 degrees. And she's like, I'm bringing my hawk in. I'm like, it gets really cold in the desert. Like, the Harris Hawks are gonna be fine.
But he's cold.
And she's like, I'm bringing Pellet in, and she's like daring me, and she's like, I'm bringing Pellet in. I'm going now. Are you gonna get Scar? Are you gonna get her?
Like, you should get
no.
her.
And she's like, I'm getting Scar. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, it's gonna be like 25 degrees.
If she's fatter than Pellet tomorrow, he's gonna be chasing down a giant fox squirrel. It's gonna be your fault.
Oh gosh,
but
he tried.
And that's what happened as soon as I got my general. As soon as I got my general, I went straight for the coop, and back to the personalities thing. I went to the coop and I did the Goss, and Sarah did the prairie.
And you did a Penny, the other Harris.
Yeah, and I lost a Harris really quickly. I got a Harris, and then I lost her. We never had a new crop seed done on her, but she just went. I mean, she was coming along great. She just got her first kill. I got her out of Kentucky, and she was coming along great. And then all of a sudden, she regurged once, and I took her directly to the vet, and they could never find anything. They were just like, we put her on a bunch of stuff, and I, tube fed her and did all this stuff.
She couldn't keep anything down.
And she just odd. And so
weird. What's
happened to me at this point, because I've had a pretty diverse experience. I've been able to fly with different people. And I know where I live. I love the accipiters. And I loved Sarah's Prairie Falcon. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But I've gotten this sense, I guess I've been doing it long enough. If I know anything, I know that when you envision this bird, or that you might fly, or you envision that bird, you envision it going well. But if you're gonna step into another bird after you've been doing one thing or the other, you got to envision what it's going to be like when it goes poorly. With that particular, whether it's game, whether it's terrain, whatever it is. Like, we went out to Montana with Brian Brown and Natasha Leon to pull Sarah's Prairie as well. I went out there for Goshawks too, but to pull Sarah's Prairie off of this they call it a knee in Montana, but it's a butte essentially. And you got 3 prairie nests, a Farouge nest, a golden eagle nest, and 2 great horned owls nests, all
within about 10 feet of each other.
Yeah. And you're out here,
with snakes.
and you're pulling this. You know, I'm rappelling down this cliff, and I'm pulling these birds. And when we're driving around Montana, because I don't go out to Montana as a rule unless I've got at least 8, probably 10 days to spend out there, because it's so much fun and it's such a wonderful place.
Sure.
And you see, on the way from their house to where we pulled Sarah's bird, I saw with my own eyes nesting ducks, pheasants, huns, you know.
It was crazy. Yeah.
Huge variety.
Oh, man.
All these all these upland game species, and when you're standing there and you see that jacks, whitetails,
sure,
and mule deer, all this incredible wild game bonanza, and you're sitting there and you go, I gotta bring this thing back to Tennessee.
Right.
You know, is it doable? Yes. It's absolutely doable. Do I want to do another goshawk? Yes, I really do. I want to do another goshawk, and I want to tame Hackett here because it's such a great place, and I want to go back into it. But imagining where it goes badly, or imagining that you don't have the game, imagining how hard it is, because when Jared came down with his goss last year, I was like, this is a duck spot I checked out earlier this year. You know, at the very tail end of the Tennessee meet, I was like, come on, maybe we'll find a slip. And we were able to find a slip on some crows. But other than that, you know, it was really weak. And I know how hard it is to hunt a species that lives outside my door.
Sure.
And I want to be good custodians of, you know, they say nothing trains a bird dog like wild birds. And it's the same thing for raptors. Nothing trains a good bird like plenty of game.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, you gotta have a plan for the good and the bad.
And a solid plan, and backup plans, and all this stuff. And that's why in the dead of winter, when I had my coops, I went out to Bridges and assassinated pigeons in the dark. But it was, the bird didn't care. It was good for the you know, coops have that. Man, coops are almost as maniacal as kestrels. I mean, they gotta kill something.
Well, except that, you know. Well, the home life with a kestrel is far easier.
Infinitely nicer. And I was being a little facetious.
Well,
but
sure. Yeah.
I think the reason I said that is because people underestimate how exactly bloodthirsty kestrels are.
Oh, they're insane.
How I don't know the right terminology. Just how amazing workers they are.
They are. They're diligent.
They won't quit. They won't quit.
And when they get a good pattern going, they get really comfortable with
routine.
But that was the thing with my coops, with the accipiters, and I probably wouldn't do it with a $2,400 goshawk because you never know what you're pulling down with a pigeon. But in order to meet the bird's needs, not my needs, because it's 26 degrees outside and it gets dark at 3:50.
Sure.
So to meet the bird's needs, I would go out and I would go to a warehouse downtown, or I'd go over here and I'd find a place to let that coop do what it naturally does. And it didn't, well, naturally at night, but it didn't pick up on that. But once it did, it fulfilled the needs of the bird, and that's my primary concern when I pick a species.
So Sarah, what's next on your list then? What do you want to try next?
Probably male peregrine. I tried the prairie, and I'm still not exactly sure what happened with that, but it was going quite well until it just wasn't.
Right. Well, that's any falconry bird for the most part.
That bird was he was awesome. I hate that he just left. But so male peregrine, I think, you know, and I talked to Lauren and Jeff about like what their opinion was, because Lauren's flown so much stuff, and you know, Jeff's been around forever. And sorry, Jeff.
They just keep staying around. We can't do anything about it.
But they both kind of were actually probably pushing more. they were both probably pushing more the male peregrine. They said they're just a lot more loyal. And my prairie was loyal to a point, but he was kind of lazy. You know, it was like whatever was the easiest thing for him to do to get the job done, to get fed. He wasn't really into working hard. Like the kestrels, And they would, they were just smart, and they were kind of in it for more the joy of it. He was a bit more like, meh.
Right. And it was our first imprinted falcon. We're not commenting on the nature of prairie falcons.
Sure.
It was our imprint.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I mean, mine, I pulled mine as an IS2, but he is non-imprinted. So he was a late pulled.
Yeah.
So was yours an early, like, fully imprinted?
I think we pulled him at what, Josh? Was it?
It was a little late. It was like 4 or 5 days, maybe late. From the opposite, he had just started. He was totally self-regulating. Yeah. He had some
but he was a
paintbrush.
He was a little
but he was a full imprint.
Yeah, he was a full imprint.
Okay.
And I mean, he never said a word.
I think you just needed a little more time. I think it was miserably hot.
Yeah, it was
and
August.
We're
it was
trying
about this time in August.
There's no hack. He's miserably hot, so you're trying to get him.
You can ask Jared about how he's seen mine fly a dozen times now or so to the drone and everything.
Yeah.
Mine is almost routine oriented, which all falcons are, especially to a fault. But he is to a fault. Like I've noticed if I fly him outside, even just an hour or two outside of his normal window or whatever the case may be, and he'll peace out. I mean, but see, I'm flying with GPS also.
Yeah, and that's because I was doing the same thing that I normally do.
Mm-hmm.
I had Quail. I tried to.
It was early in the day.
It was
normally we did it in the
was.
evening, and we were like, "Let's knock this out so we can go do something else." And he was actually at his lowest weight. We were cutting weight,
gradually,
moving him into this next phase of training because he'd gotten so he was hammering what he was doing, and we wanted to get him up in the air a little bit more.
Yeah.
And but we really needed to get it out of the way that day, and he'd been so reliable. We were like, we're just gonna go out there. We're gonna toss this for him, and he's gonna come right down. And he just, and it was completely our fault. It's one of those things better. You know so much better. You could have seen it coming. We had telemetry sitting right there.
Yeah.
And instead of flying the 50 yards he was supposed to fly to hammer this lure, and he just went to a tree line. He didn't sky out. He didn't spec out.
He still pieced out though.
Yeah,
he went to a tree line,
and
he was gone. And it was just and whether it's that or whether it's Penny my coop, or whether it's Penny my Harris or whatever it is, we do horses, and fortunately that's a pretty safe thing most of the time. They get hurt.
It was until a few weeks ago. My upper level prospect, my dressage horse, just randomly, I just put her down. Like literally, it'll be 5 weeks on Tuesday.
But it's just but when you do this, when you work with it's kind of the same thing. I mean, you can argue value of animals. And we all have that hierarchy in our minds, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
But it just there's no feeling like it when it goes bad and you lose one or something happens to one. It's just but it's just like we said earlier. Everything has a price, and the price is worth it.
Yeah,
it's worth it today.
It is.
It was worth it then. It's worth it today, and you just
I agree.
Keep on going.
And I might try another prairie at some point, but to go up to, by the time I can buy a male peregrine.
Sure.
But we knew that before we went.
Yeah, and I made that decision. Mm-hmm. I thought it'd be neat because I know they'll sometimes bust through brush. They hunt a little bit differently than the male peregrine does. So I was thinking, that might work great here, just like a falcon, but like a different style of flying a little bit. I'm not looking to have a ringer that'll go up, and but I really wanted to fly the falcon. I just thought it was really interesting.
It's the same way for me too. I went into it with a mindset, of course, with everybody telling me that how silly it was for me to try and even do it around here.
Oh yeah.
But of course, I went into it with the mindset I wanted to learn how to train a bigger longwing.
Yeah.
Period. And I feel like I've accomplished that. Well, now that I've accomplished that, I'm going with plan B, which is moving into the next phase of training, and then plan C, which is phase. I shouldn't say plan, but phase C or phase 3 or whatever of transitioning to to wild game. But I've also been taking my time a little bit more because most of what I plan on hunting with them is not in season yet anyway. Yeah. So, I figure another month, whenever, by the time things are in season, like ducks and everything that I want to try with him, I will have hopefully established I'm not looking to fly him from 1,000-foot stoops, or I mean 300-400 feet, at the most.
Ideally.
And everything else. I mean,
Well, and this has been, somebody told, this occurred when I was thinking about doing a coop, and I really liked it because me and Vince were talking. I don't remember which one of us actually said it, whether I said it to him or he said it to me, honestly. But I think I said he was talking about the gravity of the decision to try and fly a Cooper's Hawk. And a passage at that, because passage, you don't want to fly an imprint for your first one, in my opinion. But he said how many, I said to him, how many red tails do I need to fly till I'm ready to fly a coop? And that's the thing. It's the same thing. Yeah. How many coops do you need to fly to get yourself ready for a peregrine?
Yeah.
You might as well be like
night and day difference.
Yeah. You might as well be like, well, I'm a great horse trainer. I think NASCAR is the place for me.
For sure. I totally get it. I mean, it's the same thing with I've asked very experienced guys. I was like, well, what should I do most to prepare me for Merlin? And I had one very esteemed person tell me, well, if you can successfully fly a passage coop or two, then that might be the closest thing, sort of, to kind of getting yourself ready for the mentality, because it's its own thing. Like flying a Merlin versus like a passage coop, whatever. Lord knows there's enough opinions to go around,
in the
for
falconry
exactly.
I think there's some fundamental skills that definitely make a well-rounded falconer, and being able to take game consistently with a red tail, and being able to do the weight management on a kestrel, I think gives you a fantastic base for moving on. And there's this whole thing, if I could impart anything to somebody who's looking into falconry or doing, they're going to read a lot about weights. They're going to read a lot about managing different birds.
Everything.
They're going to read a lot of different perspectives about different species, and they're going to get an idea about what they're going to do.
Opinion.
Right. And after they've asked about 20 other people's opinion.
And the people out there, the people out there, Facebook. Oh my gosh, help us.
Yeah.
But but the people out there who do the black magic with birds, who are capable of training birds in certain ways. I'd say Jeff's one of them. He will take people's money all the time betting he can fly one in 12 days. And I don't know how he gets them back, honestly, but he gets them on game real fast. But there's people out there like him, or there's, the Goshawk whisperers or Marks, people like that, who do this so well. And the skill that they have, if there's one thing that I can give to the aspiring falconer, is learn how to read a bird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it's your bird, whether it's your species, whether it's whatever it is, reading birds will save you every time.
And that knowledge is something that you absolutely cannot get from reading a book.
No,
you can't get it from reading a book.
Not at all.
Nobody's going to explain it to you enough.
And for that matter, you can only get so much of it from someone showing you also.
Exactly.
But the bottom line is learn how to read your bird by flying your bird.
Yeah.
Period.
And interpreting those signals and listen to them when they come. And you say, it's almost, there is almost never a situation, where you say, I didn't have any idea that was going to happen.
Well, and not only that, but if you do, or if it goes over your head, or you don't listen, and the mistake that will happen afterwards, if that happens, then learn from it and don't do it again.
Exactly.
And that
or
to me
learn
is
why
what
it happened.
Well,
if you've got something that you're like, this isn't right, and I know it's not right, it's just like adaptability is so important in this game, and it's so important with things like, you hear the stories all the time where if it's a square peg and a round hole, stop.
Right.
Because I don't know the amount of times I've heard somebody say this Cooper's hawk or this goshawk is broken. It will not fly to my fist at any weight.
Then feed it up and let it go.
Exactly.
Or
try to get
stop
later.
flying it to the fist. Fly it to the lure.
Yeah.
And pop it up to the fist. That was Vince's thing.
Oh, yeah.
How's he popping up? Vince would ask me when I was doing my first coop. He'd be like, so he's coming to the lure. He's hammering the lure, right? Yeah. How's he popping up? How fast is he popping up? Because I flew them. But adaptability is important. Sure.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. But on that note, I think that this would probably be a good stopping point because, believe it or not, we are already at an hour and 12 minutes.
Oh wow!
Time flies when you're having
fun. It does, exactly. Which I did. Yeah. No, this was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you guys especially on the short notice, taking the time to do this with me and stuff. And
absolutely,
it's always nice, whenever people are open to sharing their experiences and everything, and I appreciate it. So I'm not going to thank Jared for assisting on this because
no, thank you, Jared.
Yeah,
I just wanted a free ride down here.
Yeah, exactly. He got the privilege of being able to come along for this, but no, and I appreciate. Yeah, thank you, Jared, for hooking this up. I do appreciate it. So anyway, well, let's go have dinner.
Yes,
let's go
do
eat.
It sounds like a plan.
Food.
All right, thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. And thank you again to Josh and Sara Hoos for having us down, and thank you again, Jared, for helping set this podcast episode up. It was really cool getting to meet them and see their horses and the property they live on. It's really beautiful down where they live at. So it was really cool seeing and meeting them for the first time, and hopefully we will do this again soon with them. But as always, if you want to keep up with all the happenings going on with us, tune into falconrytold.com, and always feel free to check us out. And right now the episodes will still be primarily streamed from the website until we get everything else set up and ready to go. So keep on checking back with us. And as always, also, if you know of anyone who wants to possibly approach sponsorship, hit us up at the Falconry Told website. And also to the people who have been kind enough to throw us a donation here and there. We really appreciate it. And as always, we can never stop thanking you enough for your kindness in doing that. See you again next week. And thank you again so much for tuning in with us. So be safe, take care, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.